Everyone, this is Alex Kessler. This is the MMCast Hot Take. These are videos that release every Tuesday or Monday on our Patreon that are like short, little, sometimes we do deck tech, sometimes we just have hot takes. Today we're doing a deck tech with our guest, Mike Lawton, at Mike Wildspeaker on Twitter. He was on last week's episode talking about how to get kids into Magic. He's a teacher out of Milwaukee who runs a game club for the last 7 years, and we did a whole episode kind of walking through how to get parents into Magic, or how parents can get their kids into Magic, or how to teach new players how to play Magic, and what that onboarding process is, since we're all stuck inside due to the coronavirus. This is a great tool for something for parents to do with their kids, since the kids can't go to school right now. Today we're doing a big deck tech on Mike's favorite deck, which is Black-White Pox, a card that I have taken into many a Legacy tournament, but never into a Modern tournament, so I'm excited to get talking about all of the things you could do by sacrificing your lands, your creatures, discarding your hand and losing life, but making your opponent do the same thing. Say hi, Mike.
Hey, what's up?
Tell me about this Black-White Pox list that you're playing / torturing people with.
Yeah, it's I'm one of those Modern players that's going to play my beloved deck, like no matter the meta, and it's
that's the way to play Modern.
What's that?
That's the correct way to play Modern. Get good at a deck you love. Don't metagame if you don't need to.
And so I played for a long time since Old Extended, and then Modern came around, and I pretty quickly gravitated into this Black-White deck, and it's all built around the card Smallpox, which I just absolutely love, and I call it Zombie Small Apocalypse. And
the sacrificing a land part is generally, and the creature part are probably the two most important features, but the whole package does a lot of things.
Yeah, it's my favorite card because there's so many axes you can interact with on it. It does 4 very powerful things, so like my favorite plays with the deck are I can drop a turn 1 Urborg and hit a Thoughtseize or like a Gravecrawler, and then turn 2 drop a Flagstones of Trokair, and then play Smallpox on turn 2. And the beauty of it is I can discard a Bloodghast and sacrifice my Flagstones, which is going to trigger putting a land into play, which brings my Bloodghast back out. And so it's this huge value play that I could just hit on turn 2, and it could just steal wins just right off of that. It's such a fun deck to play. I really liked Kaya's Guile in the Modern set that dropped, and that's been like a big overperformer in the deck too. You can have an opponent sacrifice a creature or exile their graveyard, which is huge. You can make a 1/1 Spirit Flyer or gain 4 life. And if you have 6 mana, you can do them all, which is pretty great. So it's definitely like a grindy mid-range kind of deck. It does 4 Lingering Souls. You can get value off a Smallpox with that. 4 Gravecrawlers. Turns the corner by activating Mutavaults and bringing back your Gravecrawlers. And so it can close out the game pretty quick with that. 4 Collective Brutalities. It's a great control card, and you can pitch Gravecrawlers and Lingering Souls with that.
So you are playing. So you're playing Lingering Soul. You're like graveyard packages, Lingering Souls, Bloodghast, and Gravecrawler.
Yeah.
Okay, and then using Pox and
Collective Brutality.
Collective Brutality So Collective Brutality lets you. It's another modal spell that has Escalate, but instead of Escalate, pay mana like most other Escalate spells. It lets you discard. So it gives you the ability to kind of do a lot of different things. Plus, if you're able to discard cards like Lingering Souls, you can get 2 1/1 tokens for 2 mana versus 3 mana.
Yeah.
Cool. And then, what would you say? What are some of your best matchups?
Burn is an awesome matchup for me, and I always seem to run into Burn decks. I mostly play it at FNM, but there, with 4 Kaya's Guile, I can gain 4 life off of that, and 4 Collective Brutalities that I can gain life off of. It gets out of reach pretty fast, or any kind of super low to the ground aggro deck like that. I can keep them under control pretty easily.
And then what's some of the, what's the matchup you don't want to see?
I struggle with like big mana decks, Tron decks, because a lot of the little kind of grindy interactions, in trading and stuff, If they can set up Tron, I'm pretty doomed. They're just going to start dropping their huge fatties, and my, collective brutality is not going to keep them in check anymore. And, my little spirits are not going to do the job.
But, I mean, it sounds like the deck is also relatively affordable, right? There's nothing listed so far is super, super expensive.
No, not bad at all. The mana package is the most expensive, like a lot of decks. 4 fetches, 4 shocks.
But if you're just 2 colors,
colors, Bloodghast, they're not super cheap. For getting into the trials, I do that kind of turns the corner pretty fast.
Yeah.
Thoughtseize probably the most expensive card.
Fair. Oh, yep. Okay, cool. And then, I guess walk me through like a basic, like you kind of walked me like the God Hand. What's generally the game plan, and how do you win?
Yeah, it's got a lot of little aggro creatures you can get going right away. 4 Gravecrawlers, 4 Bloodghasts. Hopefully that starts nibbling away at their life pretty fast. The Lingering Souls. You can get some chip damage in and start to put a clock on them. And then you're just kind of trying to answer everything they're doing and, strip their hand with the Thoughtseizes and the collective brutalities, trade their creatures out as best you can. Kaya's Guile is a super awesome flexible card. It can make them sacrifice their creatures, exile their graveyard if they're doing that kind of stuff. You can put down more creature pressure if you want, or gain the life if you're sort of on defense. Because it's hard to block, right? You got Gravecrawlers and Bloodghast, so you can't block with those. So if they really
Lingering Souls, one of the best blockers ever created.
Yeah. So you can lose from them kind of really going wide on you. One spicy sideboard card of mine is Bantu's Last Reckoning. Black 1, destroy all creatures and lands you control don't untap next turn. Nobody sees that coming, and you can, if they just flood the board real fast, an Elves deck or something like that, and you can just turn 3, boop, clear it all out. And if that was most of their hand and resources, then it's a nice reset button.
All right, so I'm looking up on MTG Goldfish right now some of the top decks in the format, and I'm going to ask you how you think the match would go. And you already talked about Tron, you already talked about kind of the Valakut decks, correct? So and Burn. So let's see some other spice. What about like kind of the control decks, like the Bant Snowblades, decks that are running Stoneforge Mystic and Jaces and Teferis and all of the Planeswalkers under the sun?
Yeah. I just try to attack their hand with those. I usually run 4 Tidehollow Scullers in the sideboard that can attack their hand and try to pick up the pace of the deck. I board out some of the grindier stuff and speed up the game and try to close it out as fast as possible. But those are kind of a tough matchup, especially if post sideboard, if they're exiling the graveyard and they can take care of that takes a lot of the value away of my deck. It's using the graveyard as a hand pretty extensively. So if they can hit me with a Rest in Peace, then that's pretty rough. So I just try to speed up the deck against those control ones, but that's not the best matchup. Yeah.
What about the Dimir Urza decks? War of Invention and Urza, Lord High Officer.
Oh yeah. Those are I try to run Stony Silences in the sideboard.
Okay.
And I'm usually doing 4 of those to try to control the artifact shenanigans. And again, that's one where I try to speed up the deck before they can combo off. Tidehollow Skulls are pretty good on that.
And then Dredge.
Yeah, Dredge I do okay with. I got 4 Kaya's Guiles, and then I usually do Bojuka Bogs in the sideboard. And so I'll have 7 or 8 graveyard exiling options in games 2 or 3, and so that works out pretty decent most of the time.
And then I guess if you were to take, if someone were to pick this deck up because and this was their first time playing it, they're taking it to an FNM. What are some things that maybe you wouldn't think of immediately that you should be paying attention to, or keep track of, or make sure you do, or like just like cool things that like you wouldn't necessarily like pick up the first time you play it?
Let's see. So yeah, some of the like using your Bloodghasts and getting those to come out when you want them to. You know, with Urborg down in your fetch lands, you don't always want to fetch right away. Just leave it as, keep tapping it as a swamp, and then if you can fetch it to bring out a Bloodghast, you know, do that when you can. You know, having your Bloodghast trigger off of hitting a Smallpox and sacrificing a Flagstones, making sure those come back as efficiently as possible is pretty important. One little trick I love to do is with Mutavault. You can pay 1 and make it a 2/2 creature of all creature types, and so I like to tap it and then activate it, and it's now a tap 2/2 creature, but it's all creature types, so you can cast a Gravecrawler from the graveyard off of it, and so that's a sweet interaction that some people miss, or they think I'll miss. You know, a lot of times they'll do that and they'll be like, "Whoa." Oh, dang.
Sick.
Yeah. It's just a fun, like, pretty straightforward, you know, mid-range kind of deck that hasn't changed a ton over the years. Probably the most recent addition was Gideon of the Trials, which is a pretty fun one and can turn the corner pretty fast, right? It can go on defense against you know, aggro decks by canceling out whatever attacker, or it can have another hurdle for a combo deck by making the emblem. And it's against your own board wipes. It just stays down there, right? I can do a Bantu's Last Reckoning and then swing with the Gideon after that, you know. Gideon of the Trials I always thought was really underrated in Modern. It's it's pretty powerful and flexible, and I think people are kind of coming around to it now.
I have like a good 7 deck lists on my phone in my decked app of just like Gideon of the Trials, like things that are taking advantage of packs, just like it being good in a blue-white control deck, it being good with the like you lose the game effects, like all your things are indestructible forever, or take an extra turn. Just like a bunch of dumb different things. Just Gideon Tribal, just like all the Gideons, and playing the red pack, so you get like 4 4/4s for free, and you can't lose because Gideon's in play. I have like been really every time I've ever had it in play, I really like the card. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that came out and like nobody's playing it for a year, and I'm like, am I bad at Magic? Should I be embarrassed playing this card?
No, that one feels like a sick underrated pickup. That one definitely like it's competing specifically with Teferi, right? I think those are if I were to pick a card that's like definitely dropped its playability down a little bit, is that the 3-mana Teferi does the protection thing, but it has card advantage and like keeps you being able to like keep your opponent off of doing stuff, where Gideon is much more of a threat that is better at like keeping one thing tapped down forever instead of just delaying that from coming back, but then has the unique ability of like, oh, I can combo this with combo effects. All right, cool. That's it for the hot take today. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at the MMCast. I am at Kess Wiley. Mike is at Mike Wildspeaker, at Mike Wildspeaker. Also, make sure to check out our Patreon. Thank you all the Patreon members who are listening to this right now. There's a bunch of new tiers there. It helps everything happen. And also make sure to just subscribe, like the button, like the bell, do all the things. The more likes and comments we have here, we'd love to hear your thoughts on what your signature deck is. So if this would be Mike's signature deck, what is your signature deck, and what's your favorite kind of play that deck does? Definitely comment that below in the comments. Thank you so much, Mike, for coming on both this week for the hot take and last week for the episode. Where can people find you, and anything else you want to kind of shout out into the void?
Yeah, I'm at Mike Wildspeaker on Twitter, and follow me if you want to see goings on of high school game club in downtown Milwaukee Public High School, and kids getting into Magic and getting into D&D and the board gaming culture. I try to introduce them to all of these games that I am passionate about and improve the community with that. You can, if you're interested in donating to us to support the kids and get them their first Magic deck, or get them their first D&D minis or book, DM me, and you can send stuff to me or the club.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us on. We'll see you guys later this week for the regular episode.